Coming to you live from my apartment. It's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who every day is your push play present. I'm Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our Survivor Post-Game Show after episode number 5 of Survivor 45. And we have such a good one for you here tonight because we have someone who has been here before live after an episode to be an honorary know-it-all. Please welcome from Survivor David versus Goliath. It's Gabby Pascuzzi. Gabby, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So nice to see you, Gabby. So nice to have you back here with us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It was a really fun episode of Survivor. I'm really excited to talk to you. It's been a hot minute, but I'm ready. And my
Okay.
cat was just here, but she left.
The
But she'll
cats
be
are
back.
here, not like a cat in a trash bag, screaming like we heard that Kendra impersonate tonight.
I love her sounds.
Yes. No, she's really good. This was a big Kendra episode. Sad to see Brando end up being the person to go home. I did not see that coming. Ultimately, Brando goes out right before we get to Mergatory. I will get the chance to talk to Brando tomorrow morning on the exit interview. So looking forward to that one. And then Stephen Fishback will be here with us for some Thursday afternoon know-it-alls on Thursday afternoon. So we'll check in with Steven after he gets a nice night's sleep, hopefully. And then, Gabby, we have a jam-packed week because then on Friday, I have another podcast coming your way as Chaos Cass is going to join us and tell us
Oh,
what she thinks. It's been a minute since we talked to Cass, but of course, there's been so many comparisons between her and Emily. And
yeah.
so I thought it'd be a great time to reach out and we'll have some bonus coverage with Cass coming up on Friday. So lots of great stuff coming your way, starting with you here with us tonight.
Oh, that's great. Wow, I'm honored to share a week with Cass. I can't wait to hear her commentary. That'll be great.
Yes, that'll be a lot of fun. And then Dr. Mike Monday night on the feedback show. So really a jam-packed week of shows. But Gabby, here we are, 90-minute episodes here. Are you enjoying the longer Survivor?
Yeah, loving it. It's doing a great job of showing all of the dynamics on all of the tribes where it used to be a giveaway when you would see kind of complex dynamics and you're like, yeah, that's the tribe that's going to tribal council tonight. But it's like we got a setup for what every vote could have been tonight. And so no matter which tribe had lost the challenge, I think I would have had an idea of what might have happened and what scrambling might have happened. So that was really cool, let alone, as everyone's been saying, the camp life. We wouldn't have gotten that worm scene, I don't think, with Kendra if
No.
not. Oh my gosh, the Bruce dynamics. Like, I'm just loving how much more depth it is giving
Yeah.
to this show that we love.
No, it's almost like that we know all the scenes that wouldn't be in the 60-minute edition of the stuff. And it's all the stuff that we like really like. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that would not have been in there. That would not have been in there. That would be gone.
Yeah, because there's some stuff that has to go into the 60-minute episode that's just like narration, explanation of the rules, what's going on. That's like that has to be in there no matter what. And that just eats up like a large amount of the time. So it feels
Like
like
a
there's
worm.
less like a worm. Feels
Yeah.
like there or not. You vomited it back up, apparently.
Yeah.
It just feels like there's so much more wiggle room. And for us
Like the
super
worm.
fans, like the worm. For us super fans, we already know all of the rules. Like, we don't need the explanations of the advantages and stuff. So I think we're really eating up
We
like the
ate.
worm.
Yeah. Okay. I have to say also, I think that especially in the new era, it's been 3 tribes the whole way through. And with all of the rules and everything that's going on and all of the twists and everything, that I think that it really helps having the 90 minutes, especially with 3 tribes, because you're trying to get to all of the camps. And I think it's very hard to service 3 tribes, in the 60-minute episode. So I think that really does help in these 90-minute episodes. But I guess let's talk about this vote here tonight. Ultimately, Emily decides to stick with Austin and Drew and vote against Brando. Did you think that Emily made the right decision?
Yeah, I actually do think Emily made the right decision to vote out Brendo. I feel like I heard 10 times during the episode. I know people have different accents, but I was really hearing Brendo. Uh This was a hard one for Emily. She laid out the reasons, obviously, of how she could have gone with each side, but one side was being super forthcoming with her, which was Austin and Drew, and the other side, unfortunately, they just weren't as close. Kendra and Brando weren't as close to each other, and that crack came through in kind of the messiness of the story and the lies that was told to Emily. And so ultimately, she made the right decision by going with the group that seems to be giving her more information, that seems to be keeping her in the loop more.
So I really liked Brando's idea to say, hey, here's my shot in the dark. We saw Emily try something similar earlier this season with Sabaya, and it worked. He said, here, Drew, here's my shot in the dark. Just like if it comes up tonight, write Kendra's name down instead of mine. And Drew was like, get out of town. Get out of here with that. I'm not doing that. But it seemed like it would earn some goodwill with him. But then when he turned it down immediately, then Brando went right back and was like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. And then Drew told Emily, okay, Brando is saying Kendra's name, which then Brando denied it. Do you think that Brando actually screwed things up by making that move with Drew?
Oh yeah, I think that was a huge reason of it. I think as a player, it seems like a good idea to kind of like plant seeds and start. And I understand where he was coming from in terms of if it's going to be one of us, let me just get ahead of it and say like I'm cool with getting Kendra out. But then the domino effect that followed afterwards of the lies on top of lies, I think did not work out well for him. And earlier in the episode too, Drew seemed to turn down the idea of an alliance, which for me would raise some red flags. Obviously, there's only so many people you can work with, so I understand Brando kind of still trying. But that actually was very shocking to me too. That earlier it was like, I actually don't want a nerd alliance.
Right. Gabby, what in the world? Since when is this that people are turning down the Nerd Alliance these days? What has happened to Survivor?
I know. Is it like there can only be one nerd king and he can't have the other nerds there?
Or
I
is
mean, if
it there are too many?
exactly, like, there are too many, and Drew's like, I have to be the one. I have to be the nerd king. Solo ki yeah, I guess. Uh, if I'm Drew, I wanna keep the nerds around perhaps because, like, they might look like more of a target than me. However,
Hmm.
that's a whole other story because
Yeah.
I feel like Drew is up clearly, like, running a lot, so
Yeah.
it's
I think so much of this really was not even so much about the nerds not wanting to work together, but I think so much of it was ultimately about blue versus red, of
yeah.
original Reba versus original Bello. And Drew very clearly was like, well, why would I work with somebody from your side? Like, we got to take out your numbers until something goes wrong. Like, I wouldn't want to work with somebody from your numbers ultimately. And so this is like really looming over this merge. Do you think that that factored into the decision Emily wanted to make in terms of which side she wanted to be on moving forward also?
Yeah, I heard some of that from Emily. I think part of what she was weighing was when I align with either red or blue, who has the most numbers when they get to the merge seemed to be factoring into her thinking, which I can understand. And like she was saying, from the very analytical, quantitative side.
Yes.
But I don't know that it's necessarily good to go with the majority in numbers because I feel like the laws of Survivor is like the bigger the majority is, the more they're
Yeah.
gonna fracture.
Gabby, I'm starting to feel like that this season is going to play out. And these players did not see how season 44 played out, but I almost feel like that we are headed into next week. We're going to have the start of the merge, and it's going to be old Bello versus old Reba and the blue versus red, and nobody's going to be worried about Caleb and Emily. And all of a sudden, we're going to be talking about the Lulu 2.
Oh my gosh, that would be iconic if that happened. I mean, the Tika 3, that was a story for the ages, and I would love if we saw something like that again. I'm curious how much more difficult it would be because 2 is smaller than 3, and that
Yeah.
seems a lot harder. And they're split up right now because part of the thing with Tika is they were together for a long time. But that being said, the Lulu 2 is iconic. I
It's a
absolutely
great
love that
name.
it's these two. Yeah, it's a great name, first of all, and that these two unexpected people in Caleb and Emily are the remaining people from Lulu. I love it narratively, but I think it might be a bit harder for them to get through to the end compared to the Tika 3. But we'll
Yeah.
see because it does seem like it's Bello versus Reba, like hardcore. That's what they're focused on right now.
And what's also really fun about that is that so Emily has sort of sided with the Reba tribe, and now we see where Caleb is with all of the old Bello people, and so like they're kind of like one on each side, and so I think that they're going to potentially like probably be able to like steer the vote away from each other, and so they could keep both these sides taking shots at each other. And really, if somebody like Caleb, who I had worried about from the start of the game, was such a big target, such a big threat. Like, I think that this is like a best case scenario for Caleb.
Yeah, that is such a good point. I honestly hadn't put that together with them being aligned with the different tribes right now. I do think Caleb is in a good spot, but I also think like he's just kind of like the face of a threat. I feel like he's so charming, he's physically athletic. Like I feel like out of the two of them, Emily is like Emily's gonna sneak her way through, and
Yeah.
I would live for that.
Well, they're such opposites, and that's why they're so fun together. Where Caleb is just like all charm, says exactly what you want to hear. And Emily, as we saw at the tribal council, is going to like push back on things, like even like at tribal council, when you probably should just like, okay, I'm just going to agree with that. I don't have to necessarily. She's like, you know, actually, I'm going to disagree with that. And she's going to just do so many fun things. And she's was such a find. So I'm so glad to have her as part of this season. And I just can't believe how far she's come and what a great position she is to sit in the middle of these two tribes and really have not even a hint of anybody throwing her name out.
Right. I was thinking that too. Like it was not discussed at all in the episode, at least in terms of let's turn on the person in the middle strategy that I remember you famously used once, and which is a good strategy, right?
A long time ago, Gabby.
You have to pretend like you weren't on Survivor. Like you were. It's fine.
Hmm.
um, but like this is the right thing, right? They should be getting Emily on their side because Drew was right. It is they are gearing up for battle. They are feeling the merge come. They know that numbers are important. I think it would have been a mistake for Emily to go with Bello because there were already cracks. So I'm not going to try to go with the numbers if they're up by one person, if that group is going to splinter into like threes and fours anyway, and then you're not in the majority.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people were thinking about like, well, could they just vote out Emily tonight? But the very tricky thing about that is that the first person that says Emily's name, then immediately then their side will lose because if you're Austin and Drew or you're Kendra or Brando, and then you start saying like, hey, what about Emily? Like they just go back to
Right.
Emily and say, hey, Emily, guess what? They said your name. She's like, what? That's it. All right, they're gone.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, maybe Brando could have lied about that. Like, I feel like
Hey, Drew said your name.
yeah. But I
Well,
mean, honestly, I'm actually not a proponent of just straight up lies on Survivor. I don't think it's a good strategy.
yeah.
I like white lies, I like half truths, but I don't like fabricating something from nothing because it's too easy to fact check. And you get that moment of real emotion where like she goes to Drew and she's like, "Well, he said you pitched it." And Drew's like, "What? He pitched it." Like it's just so hard to get away with kind of like a just a straight up lie.
Yeah, but I think they did have Emily for a little bit, and I think that Austin comes back from the journey, and then it seems like that Emily and Austin had like a real bond also, where I feel like that Austin really like closes the deal when he comes back and reveals what he has. And both of those guys, I think Emily really does value transparency. And
Yeah.
so for both of them to have shared all those powers that they had with her also, that I think that really did seal the deal for Emily.
Yeah, that was an awesome move from Austin. I loved that he shared what happened on the journey with her. I think that was absolutely a gajillion% the right move. And then for Drew, it's like icing on top because they got to solidify their alliance and it wasn't Drew's information. So uh, very good move for the both of them. It definitely solidified their thing with Emily. And I just wonder how much I wonder how much Emily was really with them because it seemed like in the previous episodes she was bonding a little bit more with Austin and Drew. At least that's what we were shown. And then it seemed like whenever she was talking to Kendra or like she was like, but is he really with us? So I don't know if there was already reason to suspect, but yeah, I think you would have had to have put a lot of work in with Emily, and I guess the Reba tribe won out.
Gabby, do you think at any part of Emily also didn't want to go and work with the people who were from the original tribe of Bruce? Like, not to say that she has any issue with Bruce, but knowing how the game started and how it went, and maybe how Bruce might feel some type of way. Like, is she feeling like, okay, my home is better off with the people from Reba because Bruce is not going to want to work with me when I get to the merge?
Yeah, I did not think of that, but I love that. And that goes along perfectly with what I was saying about you don't want to just go with the majority because what if you don't bond with you're not automatically a part of that majority just because you like pick on the swap one time side with them. So yeah, you're right. It would be not a good m- move probably for her to be on Bruce's
Yeah.
big alliance.
But what I do want to see is her get with Coutura, and then the two of them finally. Coutura had to have a partner, and with Caleb also to talk about Bruce, where there's just a
Yeah.
corner of people who are talking about what Bruce is doing. Um,
Yeah, they just do that at the merge feast. They like go off with a bottle of wine and they're like just talking about Bruce.
yeah. Do you have any other thoughts about Brando, who I felt like that, he ultimately gets voted out here? I feel like that he did not have a ton of story in the season, and he seems like he was a really nice guy. Do you have any thoughts about Brando and his game?
I know. He seems so sweet. I think he seems like a very, very nice guy. I loved how like he could kind of laugh at himself. Of course, his probably most iconic moment now will be him wearing the buff. Opened up
Yeah.
a whole world of fashion for men going forward on Survivor. Iconic. So obviously he was pretty good at being, a little bit of a social chameleon. He got in with the girls.
He was in
Swaps
a
are
good
always
spot.
hard. He was in a good spot. If that tribe had stayed together, he was with the girls who were in the majority, and he ended up swapping with sort of his least close of those girls. Like, I think if he was with a Kelly, it might have been different. He's not turning on Kelly and kind of saying those same things that he did about Kendra. So that's just the luck of the draw with Survivor, unfortunately. Like, swaps do suck. They were in the arguably like more difficult tribe, right? Because it was the 2 and 2 rather than the other tribes, which were like majority, except for the odds of that were crazy. I
Mhm.
couldn't believe that. But tough draw for him. He tried hard. I think sometimes when you play like I don't want to say too hard because good for him, but when you start down that path of kind of the lies and covering up, and I think even if he had told Emily, uh I did say that, but it was to lie to get him to believe that. But I really don't want to do that. And then you sit down with Kendra and you're like, the thing is,
Mhm.
nobody wants their name thrown out as a decoy,
I
but
don't
it
think
was
she would
just
like
hard.
that. Yeah.
She wouldn't like that, but nor do people like it when you're covering it up and then they uncover it anyway. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah. Kira in the chat says, "Y'all spin a pokey stop in Brando's honor tonight. Heartbroken." Yeah. So
Oh,
okay,
that
that
was
would be
really
nice. That would
cute.
be nice for him.
That was so nice. I saw that conversation between them. I saw Marianne tweet about it, and I didn't understand about 50% what was in the tweet. There were words in there that are not in the dictionary
Yeah.
of the strategy of this Pokemon shinies and stuff.
Yeah. I asked my son. I said, Do you understand what they're talking about?" He's like, "Yeah," but then there was no further clarification for me.
I think like 7 million of the 8 million viewers have no idea what happened during that. And I'm a nerd, but
Mhm.
I'm not a Pokemon Go. I don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about this journey that the survivors went on tonight, Gabby. And this was pretty interesting in a few different ways. Okay. So after the challenge, the Reba tribe, they got to pick who was going to go on the journey. And so ultimately, after a rock, paper, scissors, okay, J Maya then was the person to go from Reba, and they picked Kelly because she looked sad that she had to sit out. And then they picked Austin, and it was a little bit of, I thought, a faux pas to say, oh, well, like we got to, get back with our person so we can find out what's going on.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I don't think
He
it
was like,
was a
hell
good
no.
Yeah, he was like, "What, them? I forgot about them. I don't know I don't have anything to do with them." And they were like, "Yeah, we just want to catch up with him and hear all of the secrets that he's gained on that tribe." Well, like the night that he's going to tribal, like if I'm Austin, I'm like, "No, I'm not going to discuss that at all."
Yeah. As far as the group that's going to tribal, because I think that this is like very interesting in terms of like who you would pick. Was that the right person to take out of that equation, where that's going to be a scramble going on that beach? And so he could lose his vote. He could come back with something. Is it the right move if you are a former Reba tribe? Because it's interesting. We've never had people from the same starting tribes now picking the people that are go on the journey. And so was it the right call to take Austin, or would you, is it better off to maybe send Brando or Kendra and then give a 2-on-1 from for Austin and Drew with Emily?
Yeah, I thought about the same thing. I don't know whether they are paying more if I'm them, am I paying more attention to the tribal that's happening tonight and allowing for that scramble time like you said, or thinking about who do I want to maybe get an advantage on the trek. So I think they were thinking give one of their old teammates an advantage. And what I was trying to think is I was almost about to say, and they know that Austin has this advantage, has an idol already, but Jay Maya doesn't
She
know that
didn't.
actually. So I'm wrong about that, but I mean, maybe if I'm D or Julie, I'm kind of like pushing for it because I think Austin and Drew are going to be safe, or maybe they're even thinking let them get the chance to get something if they are in danger tonight, because I don't know, like how much scrambling will make a difference on this kind of 2-2 thing. Like they probably have to wait for that last person to get back anyway. Yeah, and then I was trying to think out of the box. Like, would you send the odd person out like an Emily, but I think that would probably be too risky for them. I just think it would be fun and funny.
Yeah, it would be fun. Yeah, I think that, like, now that you've talked it all through, I think that maybe send the person from your own tribe, because maybe if you have a chance to get something, and then you have two people from Reba there, and that you could potentially, direct things in a certain way where maybe if there's an advantage in play. But I want to
Yeah.
talk about the dilemma that they had here on this, because I this was one of my favorite ones that they've done on the journey, where they get to the top of the mountain and it's okay. Do you want the Sammy or the Ammy? Okay. You want this big sandwich, or do you want the amulets? The amulets are back from Survivor 42. No, they didn't really do a lot in Survivor 42, but they're back. And so I thought that this was so interesting. Gabby, do you have a thought on whether you'd rather sandwich or the amulet?
It depends who you are, right? My instinct is give me the Sammy. Because of Austin's logic that he articulated really well. He's
Right.
like, this is a death trap. Like you're willingly putting a target on your back in front of two people, given one of them is on your former tribe. Then again, he also, I don't think, was that close with Jay. So
No.
then it's just like he's like, we now all own this thing that only gets stronger if we eliminate each other. Like it's just asking, it's like a deal with the devil. So I'm more thinking on Austin's line of thought, especially he's going home. He doesn't have fish at home.
Hmm.
And there's two of his tribe mates there, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm him, I'm thinking like, well, it's majority rules. Like I'm gonna get Jay to give me a sandwich.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you for Austin, but I also agree with Jay Maya, who I think made the right decision to want the amulet, because she's like, hey, all right, I've already got my old tribe mate here, Austin. I'm not the closest with him. So now here's like a secret thing for me and him. Now I've got like a secret
Mhm.
tie to Austin, who's like the guy that everybody loves in our tribe. And now I have a secret thing with him. And so this is great. I also think she's a vegetarian. So it's just the sandwich is like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat this sandwich anyway. So I thought that was great for her. But Gabby, the person that I think that did make the wrong decision, I think was Kelly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to tell me
And
why.
I think Kelly has played a really good game. We'll talk more about her when we talk about Lulu. But for Kelly, here she is now. She's kind of like the third wheel with people
Mhm.
from Reba with an advantage that behooves people to want to basically vote out the other person who has these amulets. So that she's already somebody who's going to be in the crosshairs, I think, from like with the red tribe focused on getting people out from the blue tribe. And now they're kind of incentivized to get out Kelly when they have a shot, because now with the amulet, now their amulets get stronger if they get rid of Kelly.
Yeah. I really agree with you. I totally understand Kelly's drive to play. I think it's a really risky move to make when you are the only blue going there with 2 reds, because you know that. It's a known fact. It's not even like on other seasons, it's at the beginning of the game and it's these sort of random people and it's like, "Oh, yeah, we might take a shot at each other later." I don't know. It's like this is imminent, and now 2 people, because even if they only decided to upgrade it to the next level, then they just have to get rid of you. So I personally, if I was in the minority, would not take anything that would incentivize somebody to put a target on my back, or
Right.
to take me out, because there's no world in which those
Yeah.
three are doing an extra vote together. There's
Yeah.
not a world in which
There
that's
isn't one
happening.
person that they would all agree on who to do that to.
Yeah, so I'm not taking it. I'm not letting them get an advantage. Uh I'm eating, I'm getting goodwill with Austin. And I'm thinking back on Jay Maya's move, cuz I uh hear what you're saying, and I think I was thinking that initially. Like, for her, it's a good move because it lets her, like you said, ingratiate herself with Austin, like get this little thing. She's already on the bottom. The most compelling thing might be that she's already kind of on the bottom, so it's like might as well. But I'm also thinking that like it because she's not close with Austin, it's the same thing. I think it's just the same thing of like now Austin wants to take her out.
Yeah.
She's not allies with Austin.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I think she might think she is. At least she thinks she has
that's
something
true.
going on with the 3 women that we don't know necessarily what her relationship is like with
Mhm.
Austin. I think if anything, it's neutral, and maybe she feels like, oh, this is going to be a chance for me to work with him, and we haven't really gotten something going on. But I have a feeling that they're probably like friendly, but not necessarily talking a lot of game.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. One thing I did like when they were on the summit is like they seemed to be at a stalemate, and then Jay did say something like, here's why I want the amulet." Um and unfortunately, I don't remember what her reasoning was. Sorry, Jay.
Yeah,
But I don't know how long they talked about it, but I think that is a great time to really talk it through and be like, "Well, why do you want it? And what should we do with it?" Like,
yeah.
cuz they're always like, "Well, let's make a pact to not take each other out." I would sit there and be like, let's make a game plan right now. And if we can't agree on something, then like I'm choosing
That's a good
sandwiches.
way out, because I think that Austin felt very boxed in, where it was like he couldn't say to them like, "Yeah, or I don't really want to like be in an alliance of 3 with you. I've already got a lot of alliances and a lot of things, and this is going to really complicate that for me." So he had to just sort of like just grin and bear it. And I think that what you're saying would have been a good way out of like, "Hey, all right, let's just like let's spit some names here. Who are we thinking about maybe using this against?"
Exactly. And if people are being cagey at that point, then how can you expect them to use the idol or the advantage or whatever with you later? So it would both give you information and like I I just I understand being cagey, but then is not the time to do so because you are making a group decision. And so I would also just want to understand the motivations of my opponents. Like, I'd want to understand why they want that.
Yeah.
And if someone like Jay is like, well, I feel like I'm on the bottom, or, whatever, like tiny amount of information you get, you want to be like, well, why do you want that? But yeah, I mean, those girls had fish at home, so they didn't care about the little turkey
They didn't
sandwich.
really care. And also it makes it like a much easier thing. You don't have to go back and lie. You just say, hey, they gave us a chance, get an advantage or a sandwich. We ate the
We ate the
sandwich. Okay.
sandwich. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and also, Austin's little fake story, which was very clever, and I could honestly see being a real twist. It was a good story. I was wondering if they all agreed on that story or not, because then that opens up a whole new thing of like, well, you lied, and now we know you have this, or yeah, it's just it's messy. So I feel like I would want to have a real like talk at that point and be like, what's the story we're telling everyone? Like put some stakes into it. And then it's like, if any of you go against me, everyone's going to know that we all lied and we're all going to look back, whatever it takes. But there has to be something to bond you together more than this mechanism that actually becomes more powerful if you betray each other. That's actually a
Mhm.
really bad bonding mechanism.
Yeah. And Gabby, I also loved how they edited this all together. It was so funny, where you were getting where Jay Maya was talking about how great this was, and then for Austin, where he talked about how he's going to get revenge on them because they cost him this came between him and his sandwich.
The sandwich. Yeah, it's the worst day ever.
Yeah, that was very
That's
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, this episode was very funny.
And you don't get that if it's like risk your vote or protect your vote. Like I think like having like there be a food temptation in there. I think that is one of the things that makes it really fun.
Yeah, yeah. I agree, and they evidently are struggling. Maybe it wasn't I don't know if it was the best idea to have it on a day when they got a food reward. I don't know if how that might have influenced it, because obviously the 2 people that had food wanted the amulet. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I don't know if, like you said, it maybe wasn't the best move for Kelly, if that would be different if she hadn't had food. It's a very
Mhm.
interesting. Remember, maybe make the food a bit nicer than just these sandwiches. It was like, and juice. It's like give a what it was like
Yeah, what do you
mostly
think of that
bread.
combo? Right? It was like orange juice and a
I
sandwich.
know. Yeah, what? What kind
Mhm.
of a lunch is that? It didn't actually look like very appetizing.
Yeah, we couldn't do like a lemonade. Like at least feel like that goes with the sandwich more.
Yeah, it could have been like a charcuterie board or something, and then
Mhm.
they got to hang out there and talk and find out more about the tribes. Like, I don't understand. It'd be like one sub. There's more calories than they already hiked up the mountain for.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know how they pick like if they have a meeting about like, all right, what should the juice be then with the
Yeah.
sandwich? I've never heard Jeff address that, but maybe we could send it in to his podcast. All right, Gabby, then I want to talk about what was going on over at Reba, because we had from last episode, all right, the phantom vote for Sifu, or the hinky vote, I should say, where D cast the vote for him. I thought Sifu took this pretty well.
Yeah, Sifu's focused. Sifu's in Sifu's mind, focusing, preparing to play the next part of the game. And yeah, I mean, Sifu didn't freak out or anything, and Sifu just wanted to know who voted Sifu.
Yeah. See, it's funny. You're not talking in the third person, but it's fun. It's like you almost are.
Yeah, you just use what the trick is to just use Sifu's name instead of any pronouns. So you just say Sifu whenever you're going to refer to Sifu.
Yeah. Did you ever go third person on Survivor, Gabby?
I don't remember. I don't think so, but
No.
I could have fallen prey to it. It's
hmm
but
It's
not
tempting.
it's tempting. And because the other thing, I'm just curious. I don't know if that's it's like a title, because I think at one point he said it means teacher or something. So I
Yeah, I
don't know
think
if
like
that
a
has anything to do
coach.
with it.
Yes.
Like a
So
coach.
yeah,
Oh,
not
yeah.
not
Okay,
not
okay.
not coach the Survivor player. Like I think like yeah, like
Oh.
a
Well, no, I
like
was
almost like
saying
a
it is like
sensei.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it is like that, like calling yourself coach, calling yourself Sifu. But he might actually go by Sifu in his everyday life. I don't know. But
hmm
but I mean Sifu I think means teacher. But
Yeah.
no, Sifu did handle that really well. Um I don't understand why Jay wanted to say that it was her.
I really don't know. I'm so confused about the 3 women from Reba, why they seem to like, I thought that Jay thought Sifu had an idol, and that D and Julie were like, "Okay, he doesn't really have an idol, but we're gonna go,
Yes.
like because we found the idol with Austin and Drew. We know Sifu doesn't have the idol." But they seemed to be saying in this episode, well, Sifu could play his idol. He could have and this is before he made the fake. Do they think that there were 2 idols hidden at Reba in the pre-merge?
I know. That confused me so much. So I don't know if they're just saying that to Jay, but they actually want Jay out. But it seemed like a
No,
lot
they're
of
saying
conversation.
it not even when Jay's around. Like they're saying it like in
Yeah.
confessionals.
Yeah, what is going on with that? Because they had to play a whole escape room to get that idol, and they think like Sifu did that by himself. Like there was another one hidden in such an elaborate way, and that's the same beach that they're on. They didn't
Yeah, they didn't
change
even
beaches.
change beaches, right?
I really didn't understand that. Um, and at least from D and Julie, right?
Right.
And then,
I
then,
get it from Jay. That makes total
yeah.
sense why she thinks, okay, he was looking for the idol from day one. So, but I don't get why they could think that there are two idols at that beach. And I don't know, maybe it's just like, hey, it's the new era. Anything could happen. But
Mhm.
then he comes back with his fake idol and is showing everybody the fake idol. But if
Yeah.
he's showing you his quote unquote real idol, like, isn't that a lot of evidence that he has the fake idol?
Yeah, for sure. And let alone that he didn't play it the night before. Well, I guess Sean, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sean, I forgot that that happened last episode. Well, I was thinking theoretically, like it's like, oh, you might have thought that he would play it, but I mean, if he really believed that Sean was going, yeah, I think the bringing the idol out in the open. And here's the thing, players on Survivor, everyone wants to act nonchalant, where like he's pulling this thing out and he's like, well, don't you worry, I'm not too worried, I've got this thing. And they're like, oh my god, I'm jealous. I would be like, what? I'd be like, how'd you find it? Tell me everything. Like, oh, you're saying you have an idol? Like, tell me all the details. So I don't really understand that. I
Yeah.
don't know if they
Where's
believe
the
him.
note? Can we
I don't
see
get
it?
it.
Right.
Yeah,
All the
so I
things
don't know
that
if they
people
think he's
ask.
fake. I don't know. I guess I didn't catch them that they were saying it in confessionals because I was like, are they just lying? Because then, of course, D, who I think is a really good player, by the way, is like, let's turn it around on Jay.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I thought it was a pretty bad idea that J Maya had of, okay, well, because she didn't even seem to be like quizzing D or Julie that much about like, okay, so like one of you wrote down Sifu's name, right? Right.
That's what I'm saying.
She's like, all right, well, let's brainstorm. How do we get Sifu out? She's really very set on that Sifu has to go out of the game. She's
But
very focused.
yeah, yeah, which is, I mean, and that's fine. So was D, so much that she was trying to whisper at Tribal,
Sure.
like, still vote Sifu. So was she that she still voted for Sifu.
But
I'm thi-
why? Why? What is he doing? That like I get he's kind of like a quirky guy, but like what?
I don't
Like
know. Yeah, well, their reasoning last episode was that like later down the line he will be a threat and no one will want to help us take him out. And I didn't get that logic last episode either because I was like, well, come the merge, then that's an easy person to kind of sacrifice from your team. Like
right?
it's
He's a
like
shield.
you want to keep people like that around. He's not going to turn on you. He's you know.
And I would get it if it was like, oh, Sifu, he's closer to the guys, and Austin and Drew, we have a thing going with them. We're worried they're gonna take Sifu to the final five or something like that. But they don't ever really give a reason for wanting to get Sifu out, except for the fact that they say that oh well, he has an idol, he's gonna play his idol, but they have to know that he doesn't have an idol.
Yeah, and let alone like, oh, he's gonna get with the guys and turn against us or something. They're with the guys. The Julie and D are them, and Austin and Drew were the ones that
Yeah.
found the idol together, so they have more information.
And there's
Um,
plenty of stuff that we don't see, so we don't know why they have any specific reason why they're so dead set to get Sifu out. But as far as we've seen on the show, like it is puzzling.
yeah, I think last episode had Sean not quit, it would have been the better move for them to get out Sean because then you go to tribal again. Who can you get out then? Still Sifu.
Hmm.
Like you just keep him around because people will still want to get him out. So I don't know. I people get tunnel vision. It is what it
Yeah.
is, but I don't think I will understand the strategy of Jay volunteering herself to be thrown under the bus by saying, I did the hinky vote. Why her? Why her? Why would you lay down for someone else's like actual thing that they
I
did?
don't know. But it's also it can't be that like Sefue is like such a monster that they don't want to be around him, because then why would D be like, well, and then we could just vote out J Maya then. Like if they were really like, okay, we have to, like if Sefue has to go, like they're also willing to throw out J Maya to keep Sefue.
Yeah. I don't know. Sifu, he brings music to the tribe. He brings he brings Tai Chi to the tribe.
Hmm.
He he's I don't know how I would handle living with him for a long time.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to have done anything wrong in a game sense,
Not that we've
besides, like,
seen.
looking for an idol, which they've all done. So,
Yeah.
we will need to know more about what this Sifu obsession is, and if it is the best move for them, which I don't think it is, to tunnel vision on him so badly. But I mean, Sean quitting kind of saved them from that fate, but at the
Yeah.
same time made it worse because now it's revealed that somebody who's not Jay Maya wrote his name down,
What do
but
you think
Jay is
about
saying it's her.
the Sean quit last week, Gabby?
I'm not a huge fan of it because I just didn't particularly follow his reasoning, and I did read his exit press afterwards where he said, "I was true to myself, but to some extent that he regretted it, and it felt like a
Yeah.
very in the moment thing. He hadn't talked about it with producers beforehand." I'm not gonna be like this like harsh alumni that's like, "Well, back in my day, we had to," but and nor am I gonna be like, "He took someone's spot," because he got cast. But it makes me sad, that there it's like Brandon and Sabaya probably would have wanted to be there, the other people from Lulu, and,
Mhm.
that part makes it hard, was that he wasn't going home, and you have somebody like Brandon or Sabaya who actually it's funny that it's only them 2 are the only Lulu names that I can say that haven't quit, um, that if they make it to a swap, they're making the most of that,
Yeah.
so that part was a little disappointing where I would have loved to see what one of them could have done had their cards changed, but instead we kind of saw that he actually had this opportunity where he wasn't going home, and then it felt like in kind of like a brash, like, impromptu thing, and that was just the part that disappointed me a little bit in terms of, um, don't, end this experience because of kind of this you're not thinking straight. You're starving, you'll see your husband in 2 weeks. It was very sweet, it was very romantic, but the whole time I was like, "Huh? What's going on
Mhm.
here?"
Yeah.
So, and I tweeted this, but I think, and I don't mean this with any malice at all, but I think super fans, you need to think about whether you want to play Survivor for the sake of winning and playing hard. And I completely understand, trust me more than so many, that it is this growth experience. I was crying from day 1 till day 32 when I went home. And I went through my own growth arc. I get that. But that's a side effect of playing hard and making mistakes that get you voted out, or playing so hard that you're too big of a threat and you get voted out, or playing so hard that you get out of the game. Most people get out of the game. But taking yourself out, I just feel like you're not harnessing the full experience of what it could be. It's fine. You're signing off on this chapter, but you don't even know what the future chapters would be. And so I don't mean this against Sean personally or anything like that, but I do think super fans need to think about what they want from Survivor. Did you just want to do it because you're like, this is an adventure of a lifetime? Like, sure, so many of us do. But if you are not that kind of cutthroat person, you love games, you love trying hard, you love, I shouldn't say trying hard. I'm sure people still try hard, but you know what I mean? If you're not that kind of like extreme person, you don't have to play Survivor. You can listen to the podcast, you can play a casual game with your friend. It's okay. Once you play, that's what your story is now. Like now
Mhm.
Sean, who is this super fan, Now his Survivor history is people know that he quit on day whatever it was, 9,
Yeah.
10, 11. And that's okay. I don't think people should be mean to him, but people need to kind of weigh, am I getting what I want out of Survivor from just being a fan and it's so fun and I'm analyzing everything? Or do I need to be up there? And what is it that I'm going to gain from being up there? And is Survivor the only thing that can give me that? Like, you don't have to go through hell to like grow. You can also like go to a pottery class or go to therapy or like hike.
Yeah.
So that's my rant done.
No, that was really well put. Loved all of that because you can love Survivor and not have to go play Survivor, and there's plenty of people that go play Survivor and who are very good at it who don't love Survivor in the way that so many of us love Survivor. So it's not necessarily that it's a thing where okay, I really this is my favorite show, so I have to go and be on it, and I have to test myself. Like you don't have to necessarily do that.
Yeah, you don't.
Hmm.
And people should just know that it changes your relationship with the show. I am so lucky and so happy that this is how it turned out for me. I had a hard
Yeah.
time after my season. Like, it's pretty polarizing. People were not super nice to me. My silver lining was I get to do this cool thing that come on this podcast, talk about the show that I love. So I found my own kind of new meaning through it. But the
Yeah.
show has never been the same for me, has not been the same for me for 5 years, and it won't be. And if you have a bad experience out there, that's what you're going to think about every time Survivor comes on. So just think about that. And if you're okay with that, if you have tough skin and you can laugh at yourself and that kind of thing, you're golden. If it is going to hurt you to like see your favorite show on every Wednesday for the rest of your life, like you don't have to do
Yeah.
it.
And I was telling you right before we came on that I love the podcast that you did with Kellen from the summer Road to Reality. Gabby is very open about her experience and like the good and the bad and what it was like to go through this whole wild experience coming getting into it and then coming out of it. It's a really really great listen, and I think I to speak to what you've brought up. I've seen and I'm like the teacher at the high school. I'm here. The kids come in. I see them like a first day freshman year, and then they graduate, and then they go off and they go on and have their lives. And then you have these people who come in and they love Survivor, and then they have a bad experience with it. And then I see them, they hate Survivor. They don't watch the show. And I
Yeah.
find it so sad
It
when
hurts. Yeah.
people like came out here because they loved it so much and they didn't get the experience they wanted, and now the thing that they loved turned into a thing that they hate.
Yeah. And people just have to be aware of that. And I hope that Hannah and Sean have a positive feeling after all of this. And I don't think anyone should be mean to them or complaining that they took your spot. But this is more, it's advice for future people. You're listening to this and you're like, I would never quit Survivor. Think about it. Have you ever been camping before? Have you ever taken a break from your nicotine? Like, just think about it a little bit because everyone says they wouldn't quit, but like, just think about it. It's not the same as the Wii game or whatever the game that just
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
It's
And wait until it rains, people. Well,
wait until it rains. Yeah, my season it rained for 12 days straight. Like today when they said, "Oh, our firewood is wet," I was like, "Yes, we didn't have fire for a very long time because it was just raining every day, and
mhm.
it's horrible."
I did think it was kind of funny in the episode when the survivors were talking about Sean's quit. And D really said, like, oh, I can't believe it. And, they might have been a little extra salty because that he kind of blew up their games with Sifu
Yeah.
about the whole thing. But they were piling on about how that they couldn't believe that he quit. And then he told Sifu that he didn't vote for Sifu. Why would he do that?
Right, right. Yeah, they were definitely salty about that. I did love Dee's bit there though. Episode I felt like I got to know her a lot more and I liked her a lot as a player, but I am really liking her. I think
She's a
she's
hard
playing really
player.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's doing well. Yeah, and then I like Julie too. I like the two of them together.
Okay, let's talk about then the other tribe that we haven't talked about, the Lulu tribe. Are you worried about Jake? This is
No.
twice now that we've seen where he gets
Oh,
up, and not from a game perspective,
yeah.
but from a health perspective, this is the second time we've seen him get up. And like, I think that maybe if I was out there, I would say like a little bit like, it's probably nothing, but
Mhm.
I don't like that they keep showing us this.
I know. Well, I think Nurse Kelly was out there and she's saying, like, this is a thing that happens when you're on the floor and you stand up too fast and all of your head blood flows, whatever. That actually happens to me all of the time. I get that, like, that just happens to me.
Not even on Survivor.
Yeah, not on Survivor. So it's just a thing that happens. And it can happen to me like when I don't eat that much or just like if I stand up like way too fast. Um, and I think he is okay. That's not something that would get him pulled from the game unless like the thing that I was scared of was when he passed out near the fire because you fall into the fire, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And by the way, for I don't think they made this super clear on the show. Jake says it, but for people out there, the reason he passed out the first time was he was inhaling the smoke, right? So you're inhaling
hmm
carbon dioxide, you're not inhaling oxygen, you're not getting oxygen into your brain. So it's a little bit different. His two times that he passed out were different. One was that, and then one was he hasn't eaten, he has low blood sugar, low blood pressure. You stand up, that's what happens. So you got to stand up slowly, people. But I think he's fine. I think it was a good like launching off point into his
His
story.
backstory. Okay, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
hopefully that's what it was, that they wanted to get to his backstory, and so that's him talking about that scare in the game was a good place jumping off for him to get into the backstory. All right, but let's talk about what's going on with Bruce. All of a sudden things are not looking great for Bruce.
All of a sudden, what do
I
you
thought he was in a pretty good like, it used to be that just Coutura had a problem with
Okay,
Bruce,
true,
but
true.
now that really like, it seems like that we got to see a little bit of Bruce's dad side was coming out.
Yeah, I mean it's been coming out, but I think you're right that maybe this is the first time others are seeing it. But I don't know, it's still pretty Coutura heavy, but now maybe Caleb is seeing it.
All of his Bruceisms.
And Bruce seems to know it, right? He was like, I'm gonna be Bruce for a second. That was just so funny.
He
It's
goes
like,
third person also.
yeah. It's like he knows he's doing it. He knows. But
Mhm.
he just can't help himself. And
Yeah.
that's why I love casting. But yeah, listen, I identify with Coutura. Like that is the role that I tend to take when I observe these types of people too. Which is like I'm like, is everyone else like eating this up? Is everyone else falling for this? Like this is so annoying. And Bruce is such a cornball. It's so funny to watch. It's hilarious.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe this is the first time we're seeing his more bossy side come out.
Yeah. We saw that Bruce, there were some papayas that were out. And Bruce, I think, slipped up when there was a debate about whether or not to eat them, and he said that not eating them was the dumbest idea he ever heard. And then he caught himself.
He was like, not the dumbest ever, but
Yeah.
it's basically one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard.
Yeah. And that's what survivors do. They fight about how to eat the food, how to prepare the food. That's like 90% of the survivor fights.
Yeah, honestly, I love that. Yeah, I mean, people have very strong food opinions, but it's probably not good to call somebody's idea the one of the most stupid ideas ever. But I mean, I get it. It's not the worst thing ever, but to Coutura, who's been,
Mhm.
noting these things about Bruce all along, is just like the wrong target.
Yeah. But it seems like that where Bruce really slipped up, not with not getting his wife a push present, but when he was being pushy with Caleb, telling
Right.
him to go get the firewood and go chop up those coconuts.
Yeah, we are so focused on the strategic social game nowadays that sometimes people forget about the actual just back to basics social game of like are you annoying people? Are you and these things feel transferable. If you're going to boss me around to go get wood and coconuts, then you're going to boss me around to vote the way that you want.
Yeah.
Which I feel like Caleb got he exactly. He's doing the exact right thing where it's like, yeah, I'll let him tell me what I'm going to do with the coconuts and stuff like that because I want to let him think that he's in charge of me in this game so that I can blindside him one day.
It was feeling a little bit like in Survivor Philippines when Malcolm was on the tribe with Russell Swan. And like Malcolm was like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and go with this. But eventually, we're going to vote out Russ.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no point in putting up so much resistance and creating a nemesis right now when you're not going to tribal, and especially Caleb is still the odd one out. We don't want to forget. He's the only non-former Bello there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you go along with it and you let him, Bruce, kind of dig his own grave or start to irritate other people.
Yeah. You know what might be a really interesting situation? And I don't know. It seems like there's a fracture in Bello that I don't know if there's necessarily as bad in Reba, even though like the Reba fracture seems like that maybe it could just get spackled over if they end up like all on the same side. But it feels like
Mhm.
that the Bello fracture, the stuff between Coutura and Bruce, feels like that's not going away. But I do wonder, will Caleb try to vote with them together as a group? And will Caleb and Emily be on the same page about what they want to do? Or will they
Mm.
sort of end up being on like opposite sides of this war with maybe differing opinions on who they should vote out at the merge?
Right, right. That could definitely happen.
Or they both say,
Uh
yeah, I don't care. Somebody take somebody from either side. It doesn't matter. Let's go back and forth.
Yeah, right. I'm really interested in seeing what happens then.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm even thinking about Caleb now in this tribe, and it seems like he has this relationship with Coutura that's good, and he's giving her a heads up about things. They seem to have a good bond and relationship and alliance forming. But I am a little bit worried about the Couture versus Bruce because I feel like I'm conditioned by Survivor to expect the worst. So I'm like, is this going to be bad for Couture? Because one thing that, although I love that she is, it's like not here for the Bruce stuff. Like it's so funny. She's a great narrator, so funny.
Yes.
Who is she with? Who's on her side? I
Well, I
don't
think
know
she's won
that.
over Caleb, and then we saw Caleb also. I thought it was such a big scene in the episode where Caleb, we've seen like Caleb, he won over Couture and he won over Bruce and he won over
Yes.
Jake. But then the one person he couldn't get in with was Kelly, and then he finally got in with Kelly. And so
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that if they want to, that I think that Bruce could potentially be in trouble if Katura and Kelly and now Kendra, who is now not, she's going to be coming back, and like if the three women from Bello get back together, and then for whatever reason, sometimes you see people go after somebody from their original tribe that was kind of getting on their nerves. Like I think Bruce could actually be in trouble at the merge vote.
Yeah, but let me push back on that because who did Kelly say that she was not feeling good about in this episode? Katura. And
That's
so it was
true.
actually that exact reason that I was going to say I don't know who Katura has besides Caleb because ultimately even though Caleb is bonding with Katura,
Yeah.
he can't hold on to a sinking ship. So his whole thing was I'm getting in with everybody.
Yeah.
And if this last person that he feels is maybe the leader has this social capital as Kelly, and Kelly said, I'm worried about Couture. She's sloppy. She's this and that. That is why I'm worried about Couture. And I'm worried that Caleb will not be able to stick out his neck for her because going into the merge, it'd be great to have that ally in Couture, but she's just one person.
Yeah. I feel like that the way that these mergatory votes have gone, like it's kind of like a stalemate. And then there's like one person who's kind of like a sacrificial lamb from one of the tribes. It was Josh last season where the people
Yeah.
from his original tribe were like, okay, well, he's kind of shady. We saw when Gabler was like, Ellie went through my bag, and then voted out somebody from his own tribe.
Yeah.
I think that people from Sydney's original tribe in Survivor 40 were like, she jumped ship, and then people from her original tribe were voting her out. So I suspect if like these new era seasons have shown us anything, it'll be people throwing votes at somebody from their own tribe that was somebody that wasn't really fitting in with the culture of the tribe.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, it is a bit of a sacrificial lamb thing because if you want to move forward with that majority going forward, then it has to be a strong majority. And if you are feeling like your tribe is the target at that merge, then you don't want it to be you.
Yeah. And it's also a weird setup for the vote because it's going to be 6 people are going to be safe, or 7, 6 people are going to be safe and 7 people are going to be vulnerable because of that. So you end up with some weird configurations. So, if you have a situation where it's like, okay, Coutura and Bruce are both vulnerable, they could both be throwing each other's names out there as like, hey, let's just get rid of this person.
Yeah, or it's just right. One of them is on the half that's safe, and then it's like the other one's there. I hate Mergatory, and I
Yeah.
props to the new era because I have no idea how to play that. Strategically,
Yeah.
I don't get it. It is such a crapshoot. It feels like maybe the worst place to go out in the entire game. Like before the jury,
Yeah.
half the people are like it just you don't get to eat the merge. God, that just sucks.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I kind of like it. I'm not too mad at it in terms of merge. I think from what I've seen, I think what you want to do is that if you are somebody who is in the group that's vulnerable, you shut the hell up. Okay. Because the people that come back and they're trying to like dictate where the votes are going and they're vulnerable, like it has not gone well. I mean, that Jam Jam almost went out on the Mergatory last season, and then got fortunate that ultimately people wanted to go after Josh. But you
Yeah.
need your allies who are in the safe pool of people to be direct, like protecting you. And you need to not throw out any names because people are looking for reasons.
Mhm.
And if you're up for the vote and you are saying people's names, like that comes back. Like, can you believe that they're one of the 6 and they're saying
Yeah.
names? All right, get rid of that person tonight.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, how dare there's like a hierarchy in the mergatory, and it's like, well, you
Yeah.
vulnerable people don't have a voice during this when actually they're
Yeah.
the ones that are
They're
affected
they're
the
the only
most.
ones that are on the chopping block, and they have to be like, "Please save me. Please save me. I'll
The
do
people that
anything."
just ate,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, how was the lunch? Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I throw
wait."
myself at your feet for mercy. Like, "Please have mercy on me." And like, "Okay, I like you."
Merge C.
Yes. Versatory. Yeah. Okay. Gabby, anything else from tonight's episode before we take some questions?
I think we covered a lot.
Yes, we really did. We really did.
We
I mean,
really
this this
that
hour
was
this hour went
smooth. That
by
that
went
was
by
efficient.
like you're very good at this.
I also just wanted to say, because we skimmed over it really quickly with Jake's backstory, because I few people have said like they don't like when the kind of packages are thrown in there, and it did seem like a natural transition. And I just wanted to say shout out to Jake and thank you for sharing his story because it takes a lot to be vulnerable and share things about your past on TV. And well, I will always praise, especially men who are able to be vulnerable like that. And I think it's beautiful when we see a man sharing how they feel, crying, telling us about times that they've grown through. I think it's a wonderful example for people, and I'm really happy we got to see that.
Yeah, and Jake really, he was very emotional talking about it. He's a great narrator. He's a great storyteller, and it was a very emotional part of the episode tonight.
Yeah,
We
he's
had
my
not
winner
seen.
pick.
Oh,
He's
pretty good.
I don't know. I chose it after episode 1 or
Mhm.
2, and then I said, "Sorry, Jake, because I haven't I don't know if I'm right." So,
Yeah, we really hadn't gotten anybody's backstory like that so far in season 45, and then we got D and Jake tonight.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to take your questions. You can post them in the chat, and Gabby and I will take them. But let me quickly mention that 1 week from tonight, I will be in Brea, California, back on back to the West Coast for the first of 2 nights of events, Gabby, when we will be watching Survivor with a ton of our Survivor friends. We got together back in Toronto earlier this year and we had a lot of fun. And we're going to do it for next Wednesday night. So if you're in the Southern California area or can get out there, come out and watch Mergatory with us next Wednesday night, and we'll have a very fun Survivor panel and then a Big Brother panel coming up the very next night. You can get tickets for both those events at robhasawebsite.com/events. And for patrons, you can get those for a discounted rate on Patreon. There you go. All right.
Very cool.
All right. So let me see. Then, wait, hold on. Sam is also telling me that I need to mention that we're having a costume contest. Also, both nights, a Survivor contest on Wednesday, and then a Big Brother costume contest on Thursday. It's Halloween week. Gabby, would you ever dress as a Survivor for Halloween?
Sure. Yeah.
Who?
Coach?
Coach, yes.
Like who looks like, I'm trying to think of somebody who has like a look.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. Could be people
My
from
mom-
Survivor 45. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom dressed up as me for Halloween the year that I was on, and she basically just like wore my buff and she painted on little teardrops on her face.
Oh, yeah. Don't be surprised if some people are there dressed as Survivor 45 cast members. That's my prediction. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then let's take some questions. Also, yes, let's also mention that tickets are also on sale for our live event in the Big Easy in New Orleans on December 6th, when Owen Knight will host us for our Survivor in New Orleans on a Wednesday night, December 6th. robinsonwebsite.com/events. Okay. All right. Back to
Awesome.
Survivor. And let's see a question from BK. Who's going to pay off more, or what's going to pay off more, the Coutura versus Bruce battle or Austin's sandwich revenge arc?
As much as I love the sandwich arc, I gotta see the Coutura versus Bruce. That's like a weeks long arc that's been starting since episode 1. We got some iconic confessionals. Yeah, it's got to be that, but we'll see. Hopefully Austin gets a sandwich at some point this season.
Could you imagine first Coutura in the voting confessional writing Bruce's name down? Like, I feel like that has a chance to be like an all-timer of like one of the best. Or that, could you imagine like Austin in the voting confessional, like, Kelly, you cost me that sandwich and I'll never forget it. Like they say revenge is a dish best served cold. Well, so is a sandwich, and I won't forget it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty good. We'll see if they offer sandwiches at the Mergatory, and then maybe all of this stuff we were just talking about will be like he doesn't get to eat the sandwich, and Kelly gets to eat the sandwich, and then he has to be quiet and not ask for anything, even though everyone else ate the sandwich. So we'll see how.
Yeah. Well, this season they're supposed to have the auction return. Can you imagine when they bring out like, all right, next item, sandwiches? Austin's like, 500. Take all my money.
They're like a floppy, dry turkey sandwich with barely any fillings. He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Or if they bring the loved ones visit back this season, like, Austin, let's bring out your loved one, the sandwich. I missed you. Wow, what's
it's the
what's
same?
It like,
it's the
Austin?
same sandwich from before.
Yes.
It's like really soggy now.
I thought I'd never see you again. I've been thinking about you this whole time. Okay. How about a question about the vote tonight? Would it have been a better move for Emily to let Kendra in on how Brando threw her under the bus and it wasn't Drew?
Right. That's what I was thinking. Oh, so she didn't do that? It was very scrambly
It seemed like that Kendra seemed very shocked at the and Kendra is so expressive. Like, she was really fun to watch at Tribal Council. Like, if she goes out, she will be a great juror.
Yes, we'll get some good gifs from her. Gifts, sorry people. Yeah, okay, I think I misinterpreted during the episode then because she was like, "Well, if my name's." Yeah, I mistakenly thought that Emily did do that because in my head that is the better move.
I think that she was under the impression that Drew said her name. I don't think that Kendra ever knew that
Right.
Brando had actually said her name.
Yeah, so Emily's got to explain it to her after this and probably will. I could see maybe she didn't want to because they know nothing about idols. You always kind of want to be more conservative with that stuff and not tell Kendra who could then play an idol on Brando or have Brando play an idol on himself. So I get that. But yeah, for sure she has to tell him tell her that afterwards. And yeah, I feel we did not touch enough on Kendra's just aura, essence, everything about her this episode.
Mhm.
From the worm to the you mentioned earlier the cat. No, she's like ah! like
Yeah.
like oh my god, just so good.
Would you ever
Yeah.
eat a worm on Survivor, Gabby?
Yeah, but I think I would kill it first. I would mush it.
Right.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
wiggling down there. That's horrible.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The question from our friend Ryan Irwin, the comedian, says, "Who is the most well insulated from the original Bello and the original Reba going forward? Who's the
What does it
safest original red
Who's the
and original
safest?
blue?"
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to think about who they all are. It's going to emerge somebody like Julie because the stigma around slightly older women and them not being challenge threats, nobody's looking at her come the merge, and she is a best ally in D, and the men like her, the men who have idols like her, so she looks good. She looks like she's in a really good spot.
Hmm.
um she also has really good surprised faces, and she's surprised by everything as well. Like when D suggests something and
Yeah.
she's like, "Whoa, really?" Like
Yeah.
she's has a really
That's
good
that's a
face.
good call. Yeah. Well, what do you think
um
about from the original Bello? I see. I would have said Kelly, but now I kind of feel like
mm,
because she has that amulet, now she's a
yeah,
target.
I agree. I agree. And that's her. It's for
Is it
someone
Jake?
athletic like her. Yeah, it's Jake. Ah, that
Your
it's my
winner
winner
pick.
pick. Yeah, because and that's honestly how I felt when last episode Caleb was like, I really want to work with you. I was like, oh hell yeah. So he's looking good to me. Nobody's looking at him. Also, he's passing out all the time. So no one's thinking
Hmm.
he's a
Yeah.
challenge threat. I actually
You think
the
he's
re
faking, fainting, so people don't think, oh,
yeah.
like, oh my god,
Yeah,
like he's not
I
a
think
challenge threat.
he's purposely inhaling the smoke so that he passes out. It's a new
That's
meta
such a good
strategy.
move. That is such a
Yeah,
good
it's
strategy.
risking medevac for
Really smart.
lowering your threat level by getting medevac.
Hmm. Like he can
Um,
barely stand up. Keep
no,
him.
listen, this was the reason that I chose him as my winner pick was after episode 1 because counterintuitively, the conversation with Coutura and him where she was like, "Oh, what's being a lawyer like?" and he, and everyone loved Coutura for that, which they should. It was so funny. But the narrative that was being told about him then was like, I don't think he's that strategic. And that's been said a couple times. And my little brain goes off and I'm like, why do you guys think he's not strategic? Why couldn't he be? So I actually think he's very well insulated. He has this ally from the other side, Caleb. I mean, I say side, it's two people.
Hmm.
Um, and nobody's looking at him as a physical threat. He had that really good game move a few episodes ago where the girls were sort of like, "Oh, I don't know about them." And then he was like, "You know what? I feel like I haven't reached out and that's on me." And that was like excellent social game.
Hmm.
So the accent alone like gains him like what did he say the other episode? Like 25 charisma. Like his accent is like a permanent +2 buff on the charisma. Like it's the accent. Okay, it's so good.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna go with him and in as the most insulated.
Okay. All right. This is from uh Ms. Ms. Javalicious?
Javalicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we think that Emily and Caleb plan to openly work together at the merge? Emily keeps saying she doesn't have an alliance. Is this a smokescreen?
Ah, that's a good question. I wonder how strongly she sees her alliance with Caleb. She did save his butt at the last tribal council that
Mhm.
they went to together.
I think they're going to keep it low key. I think that they're both super smart. Emily has been talking about, like, I don't have an alliance. I never had an alliance. And so I think that she's going to stick to her story that she was on the bottom at Lulu and
Mhm.
that her and Caleb are not super close. Who's going to dispute it? There's nobody else in the game that was there. And I think that they could say, like, okay, well, yeah, we didn't really get along. Caleb was working with Sabaya and Sean, and I was at the bottom. And then ultimately, it worked out where Sabaya didn't have a vote and Hannah quit and we voted out Brandon. And so who's going to dispute that story?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And they're both smart and they're smart enough to play it low key. And I think people will look at Emily as an island. Like even beyond the Lulu 2 being islands, Emily just from the second of the the marooning has now this really good cover basically of like nobody likes me, nobody's working with me.
Hmm.
I- And people do like her, which is great.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I wonder if it's like Emily has like a new strategy of Survivor where this is like the emergent gameplay of like come out, like kind of like be brash on the boat on the first day and then just completely like turn it around after day 3. And then it's like, oh my God, wow. She's changed so much. She's
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean, she would have been
yeah.
voted out at the first tribal
I was
council,
gonna
but
say it's risky. You're banking on somebody quitting at the first tribal council.
I'm results oriented. Okay. All right. Rachel says, would Kendra have gone home if Brandon hadn't stirred up chaos by lying to Drew? Gabby is everything.
Ah, thank you. It's a good question, but we have such little information, but I wanna say that Drew was anti-Brando for some reason. Maybe it's the nerd
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it seemed like that Drew did not want any part of Brando. And they've been together for like 4 or 5 days. So we don't know really at what point did Brando like suggest the Nerd Alliance and that Drew shot it
Mhm.
down. And we also saw in the episode that Drew spoke very highly of Kendra about how, oh, I love
Right.
having her around. I love her energy. She's somebody that I really like. So it seemed like that Brando might have been, I don't want to say swap screwed, because that implies that there's nothing that he could have done, but it seemed like that he did get a bad draw here. And
Mhm.
it seems like that Drew and Austin like pretty quickly arrived on, okay, it's going to be Brando.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there is just a perception probably that he's going to be strategic. I think earlier Brando called himself like, hey, they're just going to think I'm like the little smart Asian kid. And for someone like Drew, who where that's his game plan, he's threatened where I don't want the I don't want the strategist to survive on that side. And then for Austin, I think, he's like, there can only be one half Asian guy. Just kidding. But I'm sad I didn't get to see them bond more because I thought they have similar background that
Yeah.
and this is me saying this as a half Asian person whose brother looks exactly like Austin. Like I posted a picture online. It wasn't even a good picture of my brother, but when I've done those, those apps where you put facial hair or whatever.
Okay.
I look like Austin. I look like
Hmm.
Austin. Anyway, I'm saying this as somebody who, sometimes you can bond over your heritage and things like that, but we didn't really get to see them talk.
Yeah. I really liked Brando. That I feel like that he seems like he's a really funny guy on social media. He has like some really funny tweets and stuff like that. So I'm disappointed we didn't get to see more of him from the show.
Yeah, he seems like a total sweetheart, and he was such a good sport going out as well. He was like, "Hey, one of you guys went out." I was like, "Really? One of them?"
Hmm.
Or no.
Yeah.
um,
He had the very funny thing going on with Derek X where they switched Twitter or like profile pictures also.
I saw that. Yeah. He said, "Somebody recognized me today," but then they asked about Big Brother. I think they had the wrong person.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that was
All right.
cute.
Here's a question from Christian Hubicki in the chat. He says, I'll
Ah!
always remember when Gabby pointed out to me that regional accents are great assets for authenticity on Survivor.
Yeah. So, yeah, I used to be a linguistics major and I studied things like accents. And this is not based on any of my research or data, but there is something so charming about regional accents, right? It lowers your guard. It makes you feel like what they're saying is like so off the cuff and truthful. I feel like I'm always self-conscious of my accent or like lack of an accent because I feel like it just comes across like I don't know, nerdy or pretentious or something because I just kind of speak, whatever. I use the words that I use. I don't have any cute like quirks or something like y'all. And yeah, it can be really disarming when someone has a southern accent. And now I'm
Yeah.
learning this Boston accent too. It's like has a hold on me.
Yeah, so and it's like Midwest, or I kind of feel like that
Yeah.
any of these accents are really disarming, and I think that you're right. I think there is something to it because I feel like that if somebody has an accent, that I feel like that they are speaking authentically and not
Right.
trying to mask who they are. I think that there's like something subconscious about that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. So uh, I guess new emergent strategy, like come up with an accent.
Yeah. My whole career, I'm saying, okay, I'm trying not to sound like I'm from Long Island.
Oh, a Long Island accent would be pretty charming. Like I'm thinking
Said
of
no one ever.
in one of my best friends is from Long Island, and I either make fun of it or yeah, but it's not too bad. It has a very like down homegrown. I don't
I
know.
guess so.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe not Long Island. Long Island.
All right. I'll buy you a coffee after. Okay.
A coffee.
All right. Let's see. Anything else that we haven't talked about yet? Paige wants to know, who do you think is playing the best game, Gabby?
Oh, it's so hard to say at this point. Honestly, at this point, I look at someone like Drew and I'm like, he's playing a really good game. He seems to have people talking to him and Austin. And I would say both of them, except that I think unfortunately my dude Austin will fall prey to the having so many advantages, although he did burn two of them, which also we didn't speak about, but that was a cool move on his part,
Hmm.
playing the extending the idol, but then using his goodwill to still keep his vote. That was cool. But of course, he is more out there. He is the one that went on the journey. He's the one that found the idol. He's the strong one. If I look at someone like Drew and he's playing a good game, is it going to be the winning game? I actually don't know that I believe that because I think he'll get caught. I think like he's doing a really good job, but people will catch on. I think it's really hard to say who's playing the best game at this point because I feel like the game starts now.
Game starts now. Yeah, I've said I think that Caleb is playing the best game to this point so far. Let's see how he adapts once we get to the merge. But yeah, I really have been impressed where I feel like that there's been a couple things that Drew has done this season. I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. But so far, so good.
Yeah, I don't know. He has surprised me with some of the stuff he's done, like telling people about certain secrets, and I think I was like, "No, that was stupid," and then I came around on it. Um, yeah, he's doing pretty well, but it's so hard to say because everyone's playing their own game, and we don't get to see everybody's strategy.
Yeah.
Where like I think D is playing a good game. I won't love, I won't love if she turns on, like the J and if she keeps kind of turning like that. But her and Julie seem like a good duo. Like I think there's a few really good duos. Like
Hmm.
I said, I think Jake's good. I think Caleb's great, but I also feel like everyone will catch on to Caleb. So I
Yeah.
always go for the sort of in the
In the
middle of the
middle. Well,
road
of
people.
course. Makes sense.
Hmm.
Just one other thing on Drew. Drew seems kind of on edge. That's from the chat. But I think that Drew, um, I think that Drew is interesting because he, to me, is a player that like he doesn't seem like he's ever lying. Like that he just like says out loud whatever he's thinking, and like it shouldn't work, but I feel like that it has been effective so far, where he's just been like very much like cards up and just speaks very plainly about things. And like when he gets an advantage, he's been like telling his allies about it and
Hmm.
not trying to hold anything back. And I think that's what's interesting about him is that like in that like sort of like nerd archetype, like I think that you might expect like, ooh, he's a schemer. He's
Yeah.
somebody who's gonna be like he's up to something. And he almost is like very much like the opposite of that, of he's very much like, here's exactly what I'm doing. Or like oh, he's not gonna even lie to Brando about, yeah, I'll make an alliance with you. He's just like, no, I do not want an alliance with you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Honestly, I think that might be a part of it is that he's upending, he's lowering his threat level in that way of like knowing that he comes across as this like Ivy League nerd, extremely tall, maybe I don't know, 8, 9 feet tall, possibly
Maybe
guy
9.
that's
Yeah.
up to 9 feet tall man, and him telling, like you said, being honest reduces people's concerns that like, oh, he's this like strategic nerd that's scheming. It's like, oh, he's smart and he's letting me into his strategic world and I can work with him.
Yeah. He's almost like the antithesis of Caleb, who's like a BSer. And
Yeah.
like Drew is very much like gonna like tell it to you very plainly.
Yeah, and see, that's why I get worried for people like Caleb. Even on his short visit to that tribe that one time, they were all like, "He's good," and
Hmm.
that they people don't forget that.
Yeah.
The people aren't stupid. You can be very charming, but if people feel they are being charmed, they don't like that so much.
Yeah.
So that's why you need the accent so they don't realize they're being
What about,
charmed.
I mean, Caleb, he's kind of like a Canadian accent.
It's a very charming accent. I love the Canadian accent. Yeah, why are
That's the
Canadians so
one
good at
thing that's
Survivor?
helping him. Where if it's like if he was like from Los Angeles and he was this guy, I'd be like, forget it. But it's like, oh, he's Canadian. Like,
Mhm.
okay,
I know, and he's got kind of like a more hippie-ish vibe, like, because he could come across as this, like, salesman guy, but he's kinda like, "Yeah,
I think the
whatever."
Canadian is saving him.
Yeah. Is that why Canadians do so well?
Hmm. Yeah. Bruce is like, oh, you're Canadian. Do you know Kane?
He's from Canada.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Chris wants to know, can Gabby give out a Pascuzzi award tonight? Do you have an
Oh,
award to
no.
give out?
Oh, it's so much pressure. Do I have an award to give out? Yeah, I'll give out an award. Let me think about it for a second. What should my award be for
I mean, your
this
name is so great for an award. The Pascuzzi?
the best Scuzzi? I wanna give it to I Austin, I
Okay.
think. I think I'm deciding that.
Okay. For what specifically?
Well, I wanted to award it to the duo of Austin and Drew, because they were safe tonight. Um, but Drew was in danger. I'm sort of making up this explanation as I go along. I just think Austin's played a really
Now
good
you're a real
game.
podcaster, Gabby.
Oh, good, good. He is doing well. I think it was a good move to share the information, like I said. Again, that could also be attributed to Drew. I'm just trying to give it to somebody else. Um, yeah, sure, why not? And he's been so good, in the days in the weeks before this that I have not been podcasting. So I'll give him
Yes.
a I'll give him the
Okay. So
Pascuzzi.
congratulations to Austin for
And
getting
it's to make up for yeah, to make up for the sandwich.
okay. Yes. All right. Give him the sandwich. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about what else is coming up. Anything else that we didn't get to address, or you feel like we've covered it all?
Yeah, covered it all.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Let's tell you a little bit about what else is coming up tomorrow. I will be joined by Steven, and we will get his takes on everything. We'll get some questions for Steven as well. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be live at 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday for that one. And then I'll have an exit interview with Brando. You can hear all of that when you're subscribed to our Survivor podcast feed. Go to survivorpods.com. We got a little mini site built where we make it very easy for you to subscribe to our Survivor podcast feed. Hear all of my stuff about Survivor, plus everything else on the RHAP network, the B&B, Why Blank Lost, Survivor Global, Purple Pants podcast, all of our Survivor coverage for the week. You can subscribe all in one place, plus leave us feedback for the feedback show, all at survivorpods.com. Then It's another Big Brother eviction. Gabby, are you keeping up with Big Brother this summer?
Yes, I am.
As
It's
it's
not
Halloween,
summer.
it's not.
It's yeah, it's
Yeah.
I am though. I am. I'm all in. I watch the feeds, I listen to the updates, I watch the episodes,
Wow.
I go on Twitter. I'm in.
Wow. And you're still in
I'm
85 days
still
in.
in. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, then it's double eviction, baby, coming up on
Woo!
Thursday. So find out what happens on Thursday night and then join us live at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time for full coverage, wall-to-wall coverage of the Big Brother double eviction. Then later on tonight, I'll be talking Amazing Race as the teams race to India for a 90-minute episode of The Amazing Race tonight. So check that out with myself and Mike and Jessica Leese. Plus, we'll have an exit interview with the latest team eliminated from The Amazing Race. And then over on our Patreon, we've got so much stuff coming up, including the Survivor Q&A live at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Taryn Armstrong will join me to take your patron calls about Survivor, not Big Brother. And so we will be doing that live on Thursday, not to mention a ton of other patron podcasts that I have already done this week. We just announced that Shannon Gus will be covering Survivor UK for us with the great King George. They will be having weekly coverage. Did you know there was Survivor UK, Gabby?
I've heard,
Yep,
yeah.
Survivor UK kicks off this weekend. We'll make it super easy for our patrons to check it out with our international reality TV show links. And we also announced this week that I'll be doing a weekly check-in on Survivor UK with Shannon Gus in our patron podcast feed, plus access to discounted show tickets and our Facebook groups and more when you go to robisawebsite.com/patron. All right. Subscribe to all of our podcasts for free at robisawebsite.com/subscribe for that. Gabby, wow. You did such a great job tonight.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna live off of that praise for the next month.
Stop. No, you're so good. You're such a natural, and this time flew by tonight.
Yeah, it did. I was gonna play Baldur's Gate, but I think now I'm gonna go to bed.
Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, so no
Good.
Baldur's Gate for me either.
You should. You should go to sleep sometimes, Rob.
Yes. No, we got to talk about Amazing Race. Okay, all right.
Okay.
But Gabby, what's coming up for you?
Not much. People can follow me on Twitter at Gabby Pascuzzi, and that's pretty much I tweet little things about Survivor and other things about my life, but that's where you can find me.
Yes. Okay. Well, Gabby, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight, and you were spitting fire. So thank you. Appreciate that. The chat seemed like they loved it too. So really appreciate the great work here tonight. Thank you all so much for staying up and listening to us talk about this week's episode of Survivor. Be back for a busy Thursday. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.